That's right, honey.
That's right. That's right. Welcome, welcome to another Throwback Thursdays with your man Rory T. Edwards. Had to start it off a little bit with some Rolls Royce talking about put your money where your mouth is because that topic today has been very profound. But the one thing I want to share with you all before I go any further is that these Throwback Thursday topics have been already chosen like months ago. So it's so funny how they're falling and they're in line and parallel what's really going on in society today. So it's really, really funny. But so hope everybody's doing well. Hope you've had a great week. I see places are starting to open. I hope you're being safe, practicing whatever health initiatives that you have to practice to make sure that things for you are well. Also, if you are out there protesting or you know someone who's out there protesting, hope they're staying safe and hope that they are preparing an agenda for after the protest so that they actually can move for change. So, what I wanted to do today is really talk about put your money where your mouth is. And the reason for that is because the topic means for you to take action to support someone's initiative with your resources. So that was what the statement meant back in the day. Put your money where your mouth is. I hear you talking, but what are you going to do to support uh, the actions with your resources? And so one of the things we want to do is I've had quite a few calls and messages in reference to my last week's Throwback Thursday. Uh, and this about the straw that broke the camel's back. And so I wanted to again start off with a story because people said, I heard that some of that stuff before. You've been telling this story for years, and I remember you talking about the riots and all of the things that have happened in this country since then. But what are we going to do to change? And so I thought about a story that I shared with people, and I'm going to give you the shorter version because we're not going to go 38 minutes today. I guarantee you that one. And we're going to just try to make it as informative as possible, but we're going to do it at my pace and at my speed so that you get the information that you need to move forward in your life. But before I start the story, for all of you who don't get an opportunity to see this video live or get an opportunity to see it on Facebook, you can go to YouTube and go to my YouTube channel at Rory T. Edwards on YouTube, and you can subscribe to the channel and also hit the like button and let me notify you when I'm doing some other videos. But you can go to the YouTube channel on Rory T. Edwards and you can look at all of the Throwback Thursdays from probably the last 12 weeks that I did them. But let's talk about this one particular story that I'm going to talk about. And there was this church that got a new pastor in. And the new pastor came in, and everybody was excited about him coming. And so the church was filled on that day. And he came in and he delivered an amazing sermon, uh, gave an amazing message. And so everybody was excited about this is the direction in which we're going because he gave them grand martial marching orders. And so uh, people were excited. They told friends. And so the next week they came back. And as they went through the rituals before the pastor delivered his message, he got up and he delivered the same message. And so people were like, maybe he didn't know, or maybe he saw so many new faces that he wanted to get that message across again. So they gave him the benefit of the doubt. And so as time moved on, the next week came back and people came back to the church and they were telling him about the exciting messages that this pastor delivered the first week and the second week. And as he went through the rituals again, he came back the third week and he delivered the same message. And so then people started talking. And as people congregated in the parking lot, they talked about maybe the pastor didn't realize that he had told this message 2 weeks ago, or he had told it last week. And so they decided to have a meeting to to suggest on one particular person who would tell the pastor to make him aware that he had said the same message 3 weeks in a row. And so they finally decided on one of the elder women in the church, and they told her that she probably could easily persuade the pastor to maybe change his message because he said the same message um, 3 weeks in a row. And so what happened was, as church began, the elder lady raised her hand and she said, Pastor, could I share something with you? And he said, sure, by all means. So she said, some of us in the congregation have been talking. And he said, some of you or all of you? And she says, well, the majority of us. He says, okay. And he says, so go on. And she says, we just wanted to let you know that you have been preaching the same message 3 weeks in a row. And he paused for a moment. Then he stopped and he said, have I? And she says, yes. He says, well, I'm glad that you all are aware that I've been preaching the same message for 3 weeks in a row. And I will continue to preach the same message as many weeks as it takes for me to see some change. And so I shared that story because we have been seeing and hearing this message that has been going on in our world for more than 3 weeks. We have been hearing and seeing this message of racism since we've been here. And the thing is that we have to understand that the message is not going away. It's going to take change for us to go away. And if we don't make the change in the processes, then we're going to continue to hear that same message because of the fact that we have to understand that the message will not change unless the process changes. So we have to really understand that. And so, what I'm going to talk to you today about are three things that I like for you to look into as you move forward in your process of change. Now, there was a structure that was set up many, many years ago. It was in place to deny you your rights towards citizenship. And I mean, if you feel you fit into this category, primarily African Americans in this country, because of the protests about Black Lives Matter. And so when we talk about Black Lives Matter, we have to understand what the system was and how the system was set up for us to not be equal. But when we look at the things that are the governing institutions and bodies of information that make us supposed to be equal, we have to really look into the dialogue. And sometimes what we do is we allow other people to give us the information and then we run with it without doing our own research on what really is coming on. So there was a structure in place. But let me explain to you why I think it's been so difficult, because one of the reasons people resist change is because they focus on what they are going to lose versus what they are going to gain. So let me say that again. One of the reasons people resist change is because they focus on what they are going to lose versus what they are going to gain or what they're going to have to give up. And so we have to understand that change doesn't happen overnight. I'm going to reiterate another thing that I said the last 3 weeks. I was on a Zoom call and I was listening to Congresswoman Jahana Hayes from Connecticut, and she said, and I happened to look it up to make sure that my information was accurate, because there was a Facebook post today that said Cory Booker said that the anti-lynching law had not been passed, but she said it was passed in 219 and 220. And so I looked it up just to make sure that I was going to give out accurate information. But the Emmett Till anti-lynching law was passed in February of 2020. And like she said, it's HR 35. So if anybody's looking at it, they want to, challenge me on it, please look. It's HR 35. It was passed in February of 2020. But one of the things that we have to look at is see how social media distracts us and detracts us off of the message, because they're going to say, well, they're still fighting for it. But what you're going to have to realize in your protests is that when you get in this protest mindset, you're going to have to look for action and you're going to have to prepare for action. And it may not be immediate. It may take a little while for you to get the results that you want to get. Like she said, that it took over 200 times on the floor for which it failed before it was finally passed. And so we have to look at some things in that sort of light to understand what is going on. Again, you all know I'm going to be shuffling through some papers because one of the things I want to do is make sure that I give you accurate information. I don't want somebody to say, oh, you were ad-libbing, but I don't really care what you say, to be honest with you, because facts are facts, and all I'm going to do is give you information. Like I always say, you don't know what you don't know until you realize you don't know it. And this is what I do. I make sure that you know it. So you can't ever say, well, I didn't know. Because if you ever listen to me, you will realize that I'm going to give you the facts based on what I know, not what somebody else has told me, based on my research and my understanding of the journey in this country. So one of the things I want to talk to you about, and I'm going to talk to you about three things that I think you really need to look at. And one is the 13th Amendment, the other is the 14th Amendment, and the third is the 15th Amendment. And let me tell you what the 13th Amendment is and what it really boils down to. But also on Netflix, I really want you to watch the documentary, The 13, which talks about the 13th Amendment and what it really meant and what it means to people currently living in this world. Because every time we get into a situation, what do we say? I have constitutional rights. You better look and see what your constitutional rights really are before you open your mouth and then be affected and be infected by your constitutional rights. See, you have to realize what was the first thing that happened. This country was built on racial ideas and ideologies, right? 40 of the 56, let me say that again, 40 of the 56 founders who signed the Declaration of Independence, right? As well as the first 10 of our 12 presidents uh, were slave owners. So let me say that again. The country was built on racial ideas and ideologies. And then 40 of the 56 founders who signed the Declaration of Independence and the first 10 of our 12 presidents were slave owners. So do you really believe, based on what they put in that Constitution, that they really had your best interests in hand? I would beg to differ, but maybe you know more than what I know, or you know more than what's written down. So like my cousin David always says, go handle that and do what you got to do and just let me know how that works out for you. But I want to talk about the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments real quick. The 13th Amendment provided that neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment of crime. Let me say that again. Provided that neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment of a crime, whereas the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or place subject to their jurisdiction. So you had full citizenship unless you committed a crime. Now, if you look at all of those documented information about the lynchings and all of those particular things, somebody could be arrested for just walking on the same side of the street as a white person, and that gave the white individuals an opportunity to arrest them, to convict them, to take their rights. Why do you think when people commit felonies that their rights are taken? Because it's part of what the 13th Amendment of the Constitution was really saying. I'm not going to give you all a whole bunch of stuff, but I'm going to give you some nuggets that you can take and research yourself. Now, let's talk about what the 14th Amendment, in simple terms, what it means. The 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, ratified in 1868, granted citizenships to all persons born or naturalized in the United States, including former slaves, and guaranteed all citizens equal protection of the law. And guaranteed all citizens equal protection of the law. One of the three amendments passed during the Reconstruction era to abolish slavery and establish different um, clauses. The 14th Amendment was one of the last ones after the Reconstruction period, and under the law, and was proposed in response to issues related to former slaves following the American Civil War. The amendment was bitterly contested, particularly by the states of the defeated Confederacy, which were forced to ratify it in order to regain representation in the Congress. So put your money where your mouth is. So you got to follow the money. The only reason that they allowed this 14th Amendment to be passed because it gave them an opportunity to be a part of Congress. The only way they could be a part of the Congress, the voting rights of this country, was that if they allowed this amendment to be put in place, right? So we have to look at some of those particular things that actually happened during this. The amendment also included several clauses in it, right? The citizenships clause. Look up that. I want you to look up the citizenship clause and what that really means as you move forward in your protest. Also look up the privileges for immunities clause, the due process clause, and the equal protection clause. All of these were put in the 14th Amendment to protect the rights of those who are supposed to be either by birth or born U.S. citizens. I think most people in this country who are affected by the Black Lives Movement were naturalized citizens of this country. So you should really look at what the 14th Amendment is really saying to you and not be fooled by you thinking that the 14th Amendment gives you the rights to be equal. Because once again, I gave you the stats about the 40 of the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence, and the first 10 of our 12 presidents were slave owners. Okay, so we got to look at some of that. Let me give you a quick synopsis of something that's happening through one of those particular clauses, through the Jim Crow and Black Code laws, excuse me, the Black Code laws. So I want to read something to you. Historians say that the attitudes some white people held that black people were inferior spawned the racism behind current day oppression. This history includes, say, slave codes passed by states that gave owners complete dominance over the lives of black people. Some states prohibited black people from gathering in groups, possessing their own food, or learning to read. Jim Crow and Black Code laws were enacted to control the movement of black people at night. Some all white towns enacted sundown laws which required black people to leave town by sunset. Many black people were lynched for simply violating these laws. So, does that sound familiar? Sounds like a little bit of that story that happened in Brunswick, Georgia. You know what happened is that father and that son's mentality and their ideology, they believed that they were slave catchers and that blacks were not allowed to be active or to be participants in anything in their cities without their approval. So that's exactly what they were acting like. And we have to understand that this stuff is really in place. So for you to get out there and protest, I applaud you for protesting, but you need to have a plan to rectify or ratify the Constitution of the United States, or to at least ratify and make amendments to these three, which truly affect your true citizenship. Now let's go to the last one, and I'm going to be through. Honestly, the 15th Amendment of the United States Constitution prohibits the federal government and each state from denying a citizen the right to vote based on the citizen's race, color, or previous condition of servitude. It was ratified on February 3rd, 1870, as the third and last of the Reconstruction period. So I see people all on Facebook saying they had to wait in line in Georgia for 3 hours. They only operated with two polling stations. There were some other people who said that the polling stations stopped after so many hours, and people said you could come back, and they know that their votes wouldn't be counted if they didn't vote on the day that it was supposed to be elected. So you have to understand that these are the things that are happening in our world, and how we're protesting. I love the fact that you're protesting. I love the fact that you're mad. I love the fact that you're tired and you're not going to take it anymore. But you have to have something in place to change what you're not going to take anymore, or you will continue to take it like we've been taking it for over the last 400 plus years. Okay, so I'm going to ask you this question before I leave. What do you really want, and what do you really desire from America? What do you really want, and what do you really desire from America? That's the question I'm asking you as protesters. I'm asking you as Facebook posters. I'm asking you as black people who are mad about what's going on in this world. I gave you the information last week about all the riots that have taken place, all of the things that have taken place over the years. And we have to make those changes. And if we don't make those changes, we are going to be in a predicament where we are still going to be governed under laws that were put in place over 200 plus years ago, than the 1800s, that have nothing to do or couldn't even see what this future is actually has gone to since this document was written. And they say that we um, have to be governed by it. You see, the guy who's occupying the White House right now does not identify with any order that is constitutionally correct. So to him, it means nothing. So to us, for us to be qualified and quantified as full citizens, we need to galvanize the troops, get people in local offices, make those politicians who said, I'm going to make changes, make them put their money where their mouth is in change of the Constitution, in change of the Emancipation Proclamation, in changes that govern local, states, federal laws, and then you'll begin to see the change. And then the other change, you have to change yourself. You have to change yourself. And once you change yourself, then you'll be in a better mindset for you to change the laws. So I ask you, that's all I challenge you to do this week on this Throwback Thursday. Put your money where your mouth is. This is your man Rory T. Edwards. I look forward to seeing your post on Facebook about the process of your progress as you post any other event, as you send me numerous amounts of cops who are beating individuals up on streets now. I look for your process of your progress post as much as I look for you posting, I'm tired of these police officers jumping on our young brothers and young sisters. I'm tired of it also. So this is my contribution to you. So until uh, we meet again, you need to talk to me. I'm gonna leave you with my favorite artist in the world. This is your man Rory T. Edwards. I'm gone. That's right, people. Write it in the sky. It's your man Rory T. Edwards. We'll see you real soon. See you next week for a Throwback Thursday. Have a blessed and amazing day. And stay cautious, stay conscious, but stay woke. Be blessed.